Hello everyone, it's Roxy and welcome to this crash course on the Lightning Network. In this video, around 30 to an hour, we're gonna see what is the Lightning Network, why was it born, what purpose does it have, how does it work, what are the channels, the Lightning nodes, the liquidity between them, and how do you actually use it. I hope this crash course is gonna help you understand better this layer 2 of Bitcoin, which can enable some microtransaction, instant settlement, and a reduced fee for the network and bring mass adoption. If you don't know me, my name is Roxy. I'm a Bitcoin educator, mostly in French, but studying the English and Spanish content again. I hope you enjoyed the video. Without further ado, let's just jump in the PowerPoint. For those type of crash course, it's always going to be a PowerPoint and me talking. It's so much easier than those freestyle video I do. So, the first really important thing to understand is why do we need the Lightning Network? And so why do we need to build a layer 2 of Bitcoin, which is going to enable some different functionality and trade-off? Well, it's simply because Bitcoin, by design, has some limitation. And those limitations are not a bug, they are featured. Meaning that when Satoshi created Bitcoin and when all the devs contributed to it, they thought and designed the software so we have a robust ecosystem which cannot be easily attacked by government or destroyed. And by designing this design to be censorship resistant, for example, they had to make some compromise. And those compromises are, or at least the three main compromises are as follows. There is one block every 10 minutes. There is fee for the miners, and it's difficult to modify. So the first one is pretty obvious. You all know that our timestamp, our blockchain Bitcoin, it's one block every 10 minutes, and there is an adjustment of the difficulty around every 2 weeks. So it's in block count 216 blocks. But that adjustment of the difficulty make it that we have an average of 10 minutes a block forever. And obviously, to create those blocks, you have miners that's going to take the transaction, confirm it, and include them into blocks. And those miners are going to take fee from the network to do that work. And obviously, so that is like more on the technical side. And how do you modify Bitcoin? How can you change everything? Well, you need the agreement of the entire ecosystem, the whole node community, the people running the consensus, people running the software, and that can be very trivial, very difficult, simply because we are so many from different background, ethic, and all around the world. So those limitations make Bitcoin extremely robust and extremely difficult to change or extremely difficult to modify. But at the same time, it means that a transaction needs to be validated within around 10 minutes if you pay, and if the network is full of transaction, then if you don't pay a high fee to the miner, well, your transaction is not going to be validated. And those big red flag for any commerce, these are two big red flags for any commerce, because if you have someone paying for a coffee, he doesn't want to pay some crazy amount of fee, and you don't want to wait 10 or 20 minutes to get a confirmation. So obviously the trade-off I just talked are between decentralization, security, and scalability. Bitcoin, the settlement layer, so the Bitcoin blockchain basically, is slow on purpose, so it cannot get attacked by government. So, and the idea here is that everyone can use Bitcoin, no one can censor it, etc. So we took the compromise of decentralization and security, and scalability will come later on. And the layer 2 of Bitcoin, what I'm going to talk right now for like the next 40 minutes, which is the Lightning Network, is here to create a transaction layer, which is going to enable a payment, basically ecosystem, to use it on the day-to-day basis to pay a coffee. So that's basically the main idea of the Lightning Network and why it was designed and created. It's to solve the scalability issue that is native to Bitcoin due to the unpurposed limitation of the protocol. So before I jump into what is the Lightning, I want to remind everyone of why do we need Bitcoin, because if you don't understand why we need Bitcoin, you will be like thinking that maybe there is some other solution that exists, or maybe Bitcoin is not worth the time and effort to be created, and the Lightning Network is just like a fading technology that's going to be replaced by some other altcoin. And basically you need to understand that, as Andreas said, the 5 pillars of our Bitcoin ecosystem will remain on the Lightning Network. And those pillars are that there's no border, it's permissionless, censorship resistant, neutral, and public. Meaning that it is a decentralized network. Anyone can use the technology. And this is crucial. If one of those pillars would disappear, if the network would centralize, if the network wouldn't work in a permissionless, borderless fashion, then there is no value within Bitcoin and the coin is going to zero and no one would use it. So because we have those important criteria, Bitcoin has some value and so the Lightning Network can exist. So if we go back here, we have and we can have the Lightning Network only because we maintain the core value of the Bitcoin main chain, the blockchain. Because the Lightning Network is basically a layer 2 of Bitcoin, if we compromise Bitcoin, everything on top crumbles to the ground. We are building an infrastructure in layer. We are building a castle, a cathedral. And obviously, if you fucked up at the foundation, everything up top is worthless. So it's important to remind everyone why we are here, and it's before all freedom. And now that Bitcoin has brought us freedom, we can move on to the scalability and payment processor, fee, commerce aspect of Bitcoin. So let's jump straight up into section 1. How does the Lightning Network works? The idea is simple. We are going to create basically a ramp to go into another type of settlement layer, which is the Lightning Network. And if you need to think it easily, it's simply the idea that instead of confirming a transaction on the blockchain using miners every 10 minutes and paying them, we're gonna lock some Bitcoin up top in the Lightning Network. And as long as those Bitcoin are locked up top, like you can see here, they can be used instantly within this new ecosystem, which is the Lightning Network, until you don't want to use the Lightning Network anymore, and you're gonna bring back those Bitcoin inside the Bitcoin blockchain. I'm gonna go into details how does that work, but the main idea is simply to move the coin one layer up so we can use them without the constraint of the first layer, and then when we are done using it, we move it back down one layer. The idea is as follows. Basically, you are with your regular Bitcoin wallet. So whatever wallet you use, a Trezor, a Ledger, a cold card, maybe you are using a mobile wallet, it's all good. And you're doing transaction. So you're sending Bitcoin through the mainnet, cost fee, miners. You want to use the Lightning Network and you want to use it with someone else. So for example, Bob, and your name is Alice because hey, why not? We always say Bob and Alice. So what you're gonna do is tell the Bitcoin network, so the blockchain, that you want to create an opening transaction, which is opening a channel basically in the Lightning Network with someone else. And basically you're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna lock those 5 million Bitcoins in a channel with Bob. And you're gonna create a multi-signature transaction on the main network. Which means basically you're gonna create a smart contract on Bitcoin saying that I will be able to spend those coins only if my private key and the private key of Bob sign the agreement to spend the money. By doing that, you are literally locking down your 5 million Bitcoin on-chain, but giving it permission to be used off-chain in the Lightning Network. So now you have 5 million Satoshi locked between you and Bob in an upper layer, which is basically on you and Bob. And now you can do as many transactions as you want because it's not wrote down on any ledger. If you think of it, it's literally like a note at your local bar or restaurant. It's literally like a note that you have on your fridge between you and your girlfriend. Or it's a note that you have between you and your friends when you go on holidays. You don't need to settle all the payments you're gonna do between each other because you trust each other and you know you're going to pay at the end because the money is kind of locked between you. So either through trust, but here in Bitcoin through cryptographic signature. So the money is there, and because you have that pool of liquidity, because you have that pool of money between you and Alice, you can spend those Satoshi. So now that the money is locked in the Lightning Network and you want to use it, what are you going to do? You're literally going to send the money to Bob through that channel. So you have a channel of liquidity between you and Bob. And if you need to send to Bob, let's say 1 million Satoshi, you're simply going to send Bob 1 million Satoshi. And if you take back the example of our note at the bank, at the bar, or our note on the fridge or with the friends, it simply say, hey, have spent 2 million Satoshi on grocery. Hey, have spent 2 million Satoshi on beers. But you don't pay yet, because you don't need to pay every time you do something in society. You can pay at the end of the month, you can pay at the end of the day. It doesn't matter, because why would you bother settling down small transactions that are not that important every single time you do it? It doesn't make sense. So you're gonna keep doing transaction, and so maybe the next transaction is simply gonna be you saying, hey, I'm gonna buy another beer, another 2 million down. And then at some point it's gonna be Bob that's gonna say, hey, I'm gonna buy and pay for the car gas. And so he's gonna write down 3 million. And basically you're gonna go back and forth doing transaction between two and writing down who owns what who. And once you are down doing all of those transactions and you want to close the account, close the tab that you have, you're simply gonna cross a line, make the math, and see the final balance. The initial balance was 5 million Satoshi on your side, 0 on Bob's side. Transaction in the middle. Final balance, whatever it is. In my example, it's gonna be 2,370,000 Satoshi on Alice's side and 2,630,000 Satoshi on Bob's side. And so, if that is the final balance, you still have the 5 million Satoshi that you've locked, because you cannot spend more that you've locked at the beginning, of course, since it's on the Bitcoin blockchain. You cannot spend what you don't have. So the limitation here in this example is 5 million. You can increase it if you want. And when you're down, you're gonna do a closing transaction, meaning that you're gonna tell the network that you don't want to have those Bitcoin locked in this contract between you and Bob anymore. You want it to have on-chain because that's it. The deal is broken, the tab is over, the holidays are gone, and you just don't want to use the Lightning Network anymore. Well, what you're gonna do is simply sign the multi-sig transaction with the updated information on the balance and say to the network, the Bitcoin network, hey, we are done here. Here is the final balance, which is going to be the amount I said, 2.3 million and 2.6 million. And so the miners are going to take the old transaction of 5 million and update it with the new information that I just said. And by doing that, it basically closes the contract on top. It settles immediately all the transaction that has been done, and you have on-chain the amount of Bitcoin that each other respectively own. When I said the miner settled all the transaction, the miner never saw them. He only saw the final balance. So the miner and the network, and privacy-wise, it's really important to understand that. The miner only see the 5 million and the 2.3, 2.6. He doesn't see the tens of thousands, millions, maybe only 10 transactions that you have done in between, because it was only between you two and no one need to know what you've done. This, in a nutshell, is how technically the Lightning Network works. I'm not going to go into details with HTML and HTC, how you have clauses, how the thing works into way more details, because it's not the purpose of this video. If you want that, there's a Lightning Network book, Mastering Lightning Network by Andreas and Rosebeef. We're good enough with that. The idea is simple, I think you got it. You lock some liquidity in a specific contract, which is going to be in the Lightning Network. Once that liquidity is locked, you can do as many transactions as you want because it's only between two persons, so you don't need to finalize the transaction until like you have the balance, and then you put it back into the main net once it's over. And what's interesting to consider is that the Lightning Network basically, and those scanners basically work exactly as a cable. I don't know if it's the right word, but it's basically I think it's a Chinese calculator basically, because you have the liquidity on one side or another side of the channel, and whenever you do a transaction, you simply like slide and move the Bitcoin from one side to another. So from Bob to Alice, Alice to Bob. If you don't have enough money on your side of the channel that you've created, then you cannot spend the money because, well, you don't have enough to move it. And you cannot create money in Bitcoin because that would be like double spending or credit, and that doesn't exist in our ecosystem. So it's literally the best way to realize that. And so if you think of it, when you open the channel, you have the money on one side, which is Alice's side of the channel, and Bob has zero because it is Alice who decided to lock the 5 million Bitcoins, 5 million Satoshi within this channel with Bob, right? And once they start making transaction, then the money flow from one side to another, like I explained. So Alice send 2 million Satoshi to Bob. So 2 out of 5 are gonna move, like you can see here. And then Alice is gonna send another 1, it move. But then Bob is gonna send 2 backs and forwards, and go back and forward between them. Like I said, because the channel has a max capacity of 5 million Satoshi, it is impossible for them to send each other 6 million. The same way that at the end of our slide here, because Alice has 0 on her side and Bob has the 5 million, Alice cannot send any money because she doesn't have any money. The same way that at the beginning, Bob has 0, he cannot send any money to Alice. So it's a two-way canal, but you need liquidity to use it both ways. And that's why in the Lightning Network, people trying to maintain liquidity on both sides, as we're gonna see in the future. Because if you have all the liquidity of the channel on one side, then it's less useful for your day-to-day use because one person and only one person can spend the money, which is completely normal if you think about it. In this scenario, at the bottom, if Alice would want to use the channel again, she has 2 options. Either she increase the liquidity and basically add more Bitcoin from the main layer, so the blockchain Bitcoin, into a channel with Bob, or she pays Bob on-chain, meaning that she sends Bitcoin on-chain using the classic Bitcoin that you know to Bob, saying, hey Bob, I just paid you on-chain a big amount, please send back the Lightning Bitcoin Satoshi to me so we can keep using the channel. Why would she do that? I'm going to talk in more details at the end of the crash course, but basically she would do that to continue using the advantage of the Lightning Network. Because in our scenario, she can do tens of millions of transactions with Bob with no fee. And again, there is no fee because it's simply between us two. So there is no miners, and because there is no miners, there is no one to pay. It's only I send you the money, you send me the money. No fee, instant settlement transaction between you and me because it's just a tab. It's on our own ledger. So if she's gonna be doing a lot of transactions with Bob, it's better off for her to simply recreate the liquidity with one big on-chain transaction than to stop using Lightning and do tens of thousands of transactions on-chain. I believe you understood the idea. So if we move on, and so when it's over, when they finally decided to stop doing business with each other, Bob or Alice can simply close the channel and, like I said, reclaim the Bitcoin on-chain. This different type of closing mechanism, meaning that maybe Alice can close it, maybe Bob can ask to close it, maybe they can both coordinate the effort to close it, or maybe one or the other is going to try to cheat. I'm not going to go into details on how you can close a channel, That will be for another video or for another courses in the future. But just so you know, there is different type of mechanism. At the end of the day, the on-chain balance is going to be upgraded and the Bitcoin are going to move on-chain to the respective wallet. So, now that we understand the basic of a channel creation, locking the Bitcoin between two persons is creating a channel, and then the liquidity is simply how the Bitcoin can move between one person and another within this channel, and then you close it. We need to ask the question, yeah, okay, it's fine, but does that mean I need to open a channel with every single person I want to do business with? Which is a good question, because maybe that would be, first of all, really not efficient and it won't scale a lot. And where the Lightning Network is really powerful is because in the name there is network. It is a network. And by that, we mean that we don't need to be connected specifically with one person to send him Bitcoins or Satoshi through the Lightning Network. Hear me out. Basically, I have a channel with someone else. For example, let's say that person is Chomsky. So I have a channel with Chomsky, and Chomsky have a channel with Ron Paul, and Ron Paul has a channel with Bob. What I can do is ask Chomsky to send the money to Ron Paul, and Ron Paul is going to send the money to Bob. By doing that, I'm still using the Lightning Network, simply that I'm not directly connected to Bob, I'm connected through intermediaries. And you can see it on this graph. So basically in the Lightning Network, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of channels. There is tens of thousands of nodes, and there is a lot of roads, of potential roads between every participant. Meaning that even though I am not connected to the shop that sells coffee down the street back in El Salvador, but because I'm connected with a Bitcoiner which is connected to some other dude in the US which is connected to that specific shop, I can still send money directly to him with a very tiny fee. So if you got me right, it means that the network, as it grows exponentially, gets more and more robust because more roads are connected for payment to go through between people that do not know each other. I want to send money to Bob. If I'm connected to him, it's going to be immediate, so no hop. If I want to send money to Bob, but we have one connection in common, which is Chomsky, it's going to be only one hop. I'm going to ask Chomsky to pay Bob on my behalf. If, however, I'm definitely not connected with some dude in Chile, it's okay, because someone else is going to be connected to him. So the dude in Chile is going to be connected to some other dude in Chile, which is going to be connected to, let's say, LN Market, which is like a trading platform. And then LN Market is going to be connected to me. And so with those big hubs, we can basically reach the entire ecosystem. And that is extremely powerful. So let's see how it works. Like I say, the liquidity needs to be here in order to work. And even though this graph explains it well, I believe the next one explains it better. At the top, or here on the left, whatever you want, on the top, you have the current states of the Lightning Network balance of liquidity between each channel. Meaning that me, Alice, is connected with Hayek. Hayek is connected to Chomsky. Chomsky to Bitcoin. Bcash is trash, and Bcash is trash is connected to Découvre Bitcoin or LN Market or whatever. Right now, at the top is simply the states as a given moment without making any transaction. And if you consider these states and you understood what I tried to explain with my poor English earlier, it simply means that Alice can send 3 out of 5. Then Hayek can send up to 5 out of 5, so he has all the liquidity. And Chomsky has a lot of liquidity and he can send up to 7 out of basically 10, and Bitcoin is trash 2 out of 5. if this is our road, if this is our connection, let's say Alice wants to send two out of 2. We're simply going to say 2. We don't need the out of, simply 2 to Bob. What's going to happen? She's going to pay Hayek 2. And she can, because she has 3 on her side. Then Hayek is going to send 2 to Chomsky. Chomsky is going to send 2 to Bitcoin is trash. And Bitcoin is trash is going to send 2 to Decouv Bitcoin. So if we go back, it's exactly that. They're all going to send the money because we asked to pay Decouv Bitcoin. Now, there's a couple of important things to discuss here. First of all, what happened if, for example, Alice tried to send 3 instead of 2? Well, this one potential road of routing from Alice to Decouv Bitcoin wouldn't work. It wouldn't work simply because, as you can see, Bitcoin is trash doesn't have enough liquidity to send 3 to Decouv Bitcoin. So even though Alice would send all of more money to Hayek, Hayek will send all the money to 3 to Chomsky, and he has enough. Chomsky would be able to send 3. Bitcoin is trash. Even though it does receive 3, it cannot send it to Decouv Bitcoin, because on the channel he has between himself and Decouv Bitcoin, he only has 2. So the scenario doesn't work if Alice needs to send 3. So what you may ask now is like, yeah, well, it doesn't make sense because Bitcoin is trash, received 3. Why cannot he send 3? He cannot send 3 simply because he received the money on the channel between Chomsky and himself, not on the channel between himself and Decouv Bitcoin. Right here. Meaning that at the beginning he had 3 of outgoing liquidity to Chomsky and 2 of outgoing liquidity with Decouv Bitcoin. Right? At the end of the scenario, he would have got 5, so in our example, 6 outgoing liquidity with Chomsky, because Chomsky sent him 3, so he can send back 3 more than what he had. He had 3, he can send now 6 back to Chomsky, which is good. However, the Bitcoin are locked cryptographically in the contract and in the channel between Chomsky and himself, not in the channel between Decouv Bitcoin and himself. So even though he did receive the Bitcoin on one channel, and so his total balance didn't change, he still doesn't have more liquidity on the channel which is between himself and Decouv Bitcoin. So he cannot send 3. He is limited at 2. In our scenario, if Alice were to send 3, Bitcoin trash wouldn't do the job, and so they would choose a different path. If it is 2, then it's all good. He received 2 from Chomsky. He now has 5 on the left, and he sent back 2 to Decouv Bitcoin. He has 0 here on the right. He still has the same amount of Bitcoin. He simply doesn't have any more liquidity with Decouv Bitcoin. I know it's a lot to take, and I hope my illustration helps you understand and get that because it's a network of liquidity, the liquidity is really important as a fixed piece in the puzzle. So what you can see on the screen now is concretely how can you visualize your liquidity. And like I say, it is literally an akubu. I don't know if it's the right word, but a Chinese calculator, I call it. Because the money is going to go flow from one side to another. And what you can see in the middle is well, it's an old one, but one screenshot of my current Lightning Network node balance. Meaning that every single one of those little names with bar and numbers and colors, green and blue, are a channel that I have open with someone else. And like you can say, there's 10 channels. So like our Chinese calculators, I have 10 channels of liquidity with people because I've locked those bitcoins. So what you can see here is that on the channel with Bitcoin is trash, all the liquidity is on one side, so I can receive a lot but spend a very tiny amount. Like if you zoom here, and it's gonna be like 45k Satoshi. So I can receive up to 2 million Satoshi, but I can send only 45k Satoshi. However, on the channel with, for example, async, which is one of the main contributors of the Lightning Network, I have 3 million on their sides. Well, it's the opposite, but let's keep on the fact that I was wrong at the beginning. I have 3 million on their side. No, it's good. Sorry, my bad. I have 3 million on my side, but 0 on their side. Meaning that I can send to them up to 3 million Satoshi, but I will never receive a single penny from them. It's not that they pay me. It's that if someone pay me through them, that wouldn't be possible. Simply because they cannot send me money because they don't have any money on the channel. I have the money. So let's say you only have one channel. You need to have liquidity on both sides to be able to send and receive. If you have multiple channels, it simply means that if someone tries to pay me, instead of going through async, they will probably go through Bitcoin is trash. And we can keep going on and on and on and create more channel. And this is a really old screenshot of my Lightning node, but you get the idea. Liquidity on two different sides, and if you don't have liquidity on one side, then you cannot use that side. So John and Chain, crypto closed, async, open node, tipping me, VIX, cannot send me any Bitcoin. I can only send them the money. And it's really important, especially if you're gonna be a Lightning node routing node and you want to get fee. If you want more details, I will highly encourage you to check Fanny's formation on it. It's in French, sadly, but I'm sure you can just put the subtitle on and also just look at the image he created. It really goes into depth on how the Lightning Network works technically, which is like basically, if you consider what he did like a 2-hour course divided through 11 videos to really go in depth technically on how it works. So if you don't want to read Mastering Lightning, this formation, even though it's in French with subtitle, should be really useful. You also have a lot of resources available on the website or online. I've compiled a lot of data for you. So now that we understood how it works with creation of channel between two persons, liquidity between those two persons, and then the fact that channels can communicate between each other to create a network of millions of channels which enable to have the liquidity go through one channel to another, we need to go into depth with like concretely how do we use it. And the idea is simple. You're going to use it with a Lightning wallet. So the same way that you have, I hope you have a Bitcoin wallet, and the Bitcoin wallet do a great job of securing your Bitcoin and creating transaction on the main chain of Bitcoin, you can use a different wallet, which is going to be a Lightning wallet, to simply interact with it. You have a lot of different wallets. Lightning wallet. You have different trade-off the same way that you have different trade-off with a Bitcoin wallet. You can choose either a hot wallet or a cold wallet. You can choose a mobile wallet, an air gap wallet. You have a lot of possibility for Bitcoin. Same applies to Lightning Network, meaning that you can use a wallet which is 100% non-custodial, and the wallet is directly connected with all the channel and your Lightning node. It's really good, but it's more technically challenging. It costs a little bit more, and it's obviously something that is not at the hand of the beginners. There's the other wallets that are more like mixed custodial, meaning that you still have your fund, but you are using the node and technology of someone else. And the third type of wallet would be wallet 100% custodial, meaning that at the end of the day, you are simply using the Lightning node of someone else. This third solution has some massive trade-off, but it's way more easy for beginners to start. So for example here, Wallet of Satoshi is literally a custodial wallet for beginners using Amazon. Breeze Wallet is a semi-custodial, same with Phoenix. Using your old Lightning node, for example, through Umbrel and connected to your Blue Wallet would be a non-custodial solution. There's some trade-off, and I would just simply add some documentation in the description if you really want to go in depth on which wallet to choose. In addition to your wallet, there's also 3 different implementations of Lightning Network. This is more tricky, so for all the people not technical, I'm just gonna go briefly through what it is. Basically, Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin, you know, like you don't have a lot of option. You are gonna choose one solution to make it easy. In Lightning Network, when the developer wrote down the white paper and everyone in the industry started working on it, it was decided to have different implementation, meaning that you can interact and use Lightning Network through different software which have different trade-off. And so there's different team working on the Lightning Network. And again, there's gonna be details in the description, but the idea here that the three implementation are LND, C Lightning, and Eclair. Eclair is created by Async, which is a French company, and so they have like the biggest node in the network, and they are working on the Phoenix wallet, which is probably one of the best, if not the best, Lightning Network wallet to make it easy. Breeze is also really good if you want my 2 cents on it. Blue Wallet is really easy for beginners. I will not recommend Wallet of Satoshi simply because it uses Amazon, and a full node is probably also a really good solution. Whatever. So Eclair is C Lightning, Eclair is Phoenix. C Lightning, if I remember correctly, it's Lightning Lab, and LND is Blockstream. If I got that wrong, some voiceover is gonna go through it. Those 3 implementations, like I said, I have different goals. Some of them are more stable than others for different use cases, and everyone is gonna have to adapt and create more flexibility on top or not. Why did they create these 3 implementations? Simply to be more flexible, to avoid a critical bug, and to be more malleable with the smart contract and the use case of the industry. The idea is simple. As it grows a network, more people are going to use it for different purposes, and so it's good that we have competition, challenge, and specification and specialization. This is the main idea. Again, not going to go too much into details. If you want, there's resources in the description again. So finally, you're going to ask me, but Roxy, why would you use the Lightning Network? The main and obvious reason is all the new business model and use cases that exist with now a system which enable microtransaction and instant settlement of a payment. Before you had to wait 10 minutes, now you don't. Before you had to pay some miners, some huge fee, now you can either have 0 fee or a really tiny amount of fee. Important discretion here, sorry I forgot. There is fee in the Lightning Network. It is what we call routing fee. So if we go back here, basically each and every single one of those persons can decide how much fee they're gonna charge for going through them. Meaning that Hayek can either decide to do the service to take the money from Alice and then send it to Chomsky so the network do its job, or he can decide not to do it. While he decides to do it or not to do it, he can also decide which fee he's gonna charge. And he can charge 0 fee, meaning that going through Hayek is literally free. So everyone is gonna go through him and he's gonna have a lot of traffic, but he's not gonna make any money, so it's a trade-off. Or he can decide to use a really tiny fee, for example 1 Satoshi or 100 Satoshi. So if Alice wants to send 2 million Satoshi to Chomsky going through Hayek, here Hayek is gonna take 1 Satoshi to do that, or 100 Satoshi, or maybe he's gonna take a variable of the 5 million. There's different criteria, but the idea is that he's gonna decide what fee he wants. If his fees are too high, Alice is simply gonna use a different path, and so he's not gonna use Hayek because Hayek is too expensive and someone else is cheaper. So there's a market competition for free. But consider the following: the fee on the Lightning Network are really tiny because we are talking in Satoshi, even under Satoshi, so even less than a Satoshi. And there's so much competition, so much route, so much channel that at the end of the day, you are never gonna have a very expensive fee on the Lightning Network, at least not now that I'm shooting this video. But you still have some small fee. And the idea is here, on the different use case, if you become a routing fee, meaning that you have a lot of Bitcoin locked and you have a lot of channel and a lot of liquidity, everyone is gonna go through you. And because everyone goes through you, you have a lot of volume, and if you take a really tiny amount of fee on a huge volume, it's gonna make up some cash flow at the end of the day. So one of the use case of that Lightning is to become one of those centralized hub of liquidity, which are becoming more and more important route for the entire network. Does it imply that there's some centralization inside Lightning and that it's a risk for the industry and the ecosystem? Yes and no. It's a mixed debate and it's not the subject of this video, but you could consider that it's an issue that we have some massive hub and at the same time they are increasing the performance of the Lightning. It's another subject, so I'm not going to go into depth on what I think, but just be aware that there is some degree of centralization, even though you could always choose not to use those hubs, and if they were to disappear, the network would still be alive, and if they were to be compromised, somehow you can still go around them without too much difficulty. My 2 cents on it. Alright, so now that we know that there's some fee, but really tiny amount of fee, and we know that the transaction is going to be settled immediately, because even if it's just me and Alice, which is instantaneously, me, Hayek, Chomsky, Bitcoin is trash, Alice, our typical example, is still less than a second or a second to confirm. So it's really fast. Because it's really fast, you can use it on a lot of applications. What I really like is the gaming one. The idea is that we can create an environment of skin in the game while playing video game now. Because the amount are so tiny and it's so fast, you can create literally an in-game wallet balance for the players, and if they make for example, a headshot, they get 10 Satoshi. If they kill someone, 100 Satoshi. If you die, you lose 50 Satoshi or 100 Satoshi. At the beginning of a game, you put on the table, let's say, 5,000 Satoshi to start the game. So immediately, in fact, you create a competitive scene, which is possible through literally stacking some Satoshi when you begin the game. And if you don't want to pay to play, it's okay, because some other company are going to be super happy to sponsor the game simply to put their logo in. So for example, Coca-Cola can say, hey, I'm going to sponsor this game of League of Legends, 1 million Satoshi. Okay, it's simply that. And now every single person playing this game of League of Legends has a prize pool of 1 million Satoshi divided with the team of 5. But so now the game is way more incentive to be competitive and not rage quit or not feed or not simply surrender because you have money on the line. So the gamification is something I believe is really important. There's a couple of Lightning games such as the Sender. There were also Lightning labs working on it and some other company. It's really interesting to see how it develops. You have Zuckerberg and you have also Fortnite Lightning, but they kind of moved on to some other blockchain nowadays. But well, whatever. You have the gaming aspect. Obviously, streaming is really logical because know that you can literally send and receive Satoshi instantaneously. You can start streaming money. And by streaming money, I mean literally send one Satoshi every 10 seconds or every second to someone else. And by having a constant flow of money going through my wallet to your wallet, which is now possible, I'm gonna call that streaming money, you can have new business models where, for example, if you listen to my podcast, which is a French podcast, sadly for you, you can pay me every single second that you listen to me. And when you stop listening to me because you don't feel you get any value for your time and your money, you stop paying me. No intermediary, no one between you and me, only you sending me money while you listen, and when you stop listening, no more income for me. So now I have an incentive to create the best quality podcast from beginning to end, because the more you get, the more you watch me, the more you listen to me, the more money I get. So we change the business model of advertising, we change the business model of I get paid at the beginning because you click, it's I get paid because you listen to me. A really tiny amount, but if I have volume, it's going to be a lot of Satoshi, and because it's Bitcoin, it's going to go up in value. So streaming is really useful. It's what I just described is nowadays possible with Breeze Wallet and other solutions that are emerging, but just so you know. Obviously, payments is a no-brainer, simply because, well, if you're a commerce and you want to accept Bitcoin, you're probably going to use Lightning Network. It's for another crash course, which is in production. The crash course is going to be how to accept Bitcoin for your commerce, and the Lightning Network is going to be discussed over there in details. Again, since if someone is going to beg for coffee, you want him to have no fee and that it's instant, and you don't want him to use on-chain. Messaging used to be a thing when I created the crash course in French a couple of months ago. It's less nowadays, but basically every time you make a Lightning transaction, you can add a piece of data. And so if you write a message, you can use Lightning as a messenger. I say it's not as important nowadays, simply because the debate within the Bitcoin ecosystem to know if Lightning should be about everything or should be only a payment layer, a transaction layer. And if it is meant to be everything, then maybe we have a scaling issue. So people are advertising and saying that we shouldn't use Lightning for messaging because it's going to crowd the network with unnecessary data. It's another topic, but basically you can literally just send a message using Lightning. The app to do that is an Umbrel. I don't remember the name on the top of my head, sorry, but again, you can find it on your Umbrel if needed. For business and enterprise use case, it's pretty straightforward. If you're gonna have a large transaction, if you have an intern, a huge intern flow of money, then using Lightning is gonna reduce drastically your fee, because once you open the channel and so you create an on-chain transaction and you pay once the miner, then all the money can be used without any fee. Since it's in a closed environment, you just set the fee to 0. No one can interact with you. You are in a closed loop. So you get out of the network because you have an internal network on your own within the Lightning Network. You can do that, so by the way. And so by doing that, every single transaction you do is gonna be feeless instantaneously. And then that's awesome for your company. So let's say you know that you're gonna pay your employee at the end of the week, every week. Well, instead of having 4 times 12 transactions a month by employee on your bank, you can simply have that on Lightning and save on a shit ton of fee. So just simply more efficient on that aspect. And routing I have discussed. There's a lot more possibilities. Honestly, this is a crash course to introduce you to Lightning and get you a big idea of how it works. There's so many podcasts, so many use cases, so many new business models to be discussed that it's for some other videos or other content. The state of Lightning is really booming. Arcane Research popped up some report, I think it was 4 months ago or 6 months ago now, showing up the industry, and you can really see that there's a new licorn coming up, there's funding, there's crowdfunding, there's a lot of interest because the industry has some crazy stats. I mean, we're growing at a 2x, 10x every month, every year. And you can really see the different aspects, like I said, the implementation, so LND by Lightning Labs, C-Lightning by Blockstream, Eclair by Async, and there's some other that I don't talk too much, but LDK by Rust Lightning, Electrum, and some other company were doing their own implementation. So you have the node aspect, you have the node management, like a liquidity provider, because you understand that there's businesses that are gonna tackle every single aspect of Lightning, and since the industry is meant and we believe will be growing exponentially, there's so much services that need to be offered to so many specific person that it's truly mind-blowing. You have the wallet, like I said, and obviously finance, like you can see LN Market, which is this thing. LN Market is gonna be able to bring you a trading platform of derivative on top of Bitcoin, so therefore on Lightning Network. So literally you can trade contracts like in the regular market, you know, like future contract on Bitcoin, for example, for Satoshis, meaning you can open a long position with 10x of leverage for 1000 Satoshi. Literally zero, well, it's not zero, but it's like a couple of cents. You can open a 10x leverage position on 20 bucks through Lightning. It's really mind-blowing what you can do on the finance side. I'm gonna go and do more videos on a lot of those different companies and aspects. I just need more time and money to pay some people to do the some editing for me, because if I do everything on myself, I just don't have time. Merchant provider, we're gonna discuss it on some other video. Payment card, well, you have finance, gaming, like I said, so Thunderbolt, you have Thunderabs, ZDB, and Satoshi's Game, the thing I tried to say earlier, reward, etc. Sphinx is for the messaging, etc., etc., etc. It's a massive industry, booming. Like you can see, the stats are here. The number did a 10x in the past couple of months. More people understand, more people implement. McDonald's accepts Bitcoin through Lightning Network. I mean, the Salvador is using Lightning for the day-to-day usage. So believing that the Lightning Network doesn't work is, first of all, false. Believing that it was created by Blockstream and big banks, it's also false. It's literally just mind-blowing the speed at which this network is evolving. So I will only just closure the crash course here. It's not too late, you are still early. Learn about Lightning, because it's gonna just change the payment processor industry forever, change the way we transact forever, and really bring Bitcoin to the masses. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much to my Patreon for helping on the project. It's because they support me and people donate to me through Lightning or Bitcoin and fiat that I'm able to produce this video in French, English, and Spanish. You are the English one. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to follow me on the social media, and if you want to support my work so I can keep producing formation, video tutorials, games in French, English, and Spanish for free, you can do so with the e-commerce, Bitcoin or Lightning donation, or directly through a Patreon for fiat. Thank you, and I will see you around. Bye bye.